Well, it's all happening this morning, so from lions hunting to shadow and cub. And you can see she's a little bit on the upset side. I think hyenas gave her a tough time. Lots of tracks for hyenas here last night. It seems as though she has put a bit of the carcass up into the tree. You can see the little cub is behind her and is making quite a bit of noise and squeaking away as she looks at Mom and wants to go up. There's really so little left, though, that it's not going to be even worth going up into the tree for it. But look, Mom is saying, away, I want to go up into the tree. Let's see whether they're going to go there or if they're going to head towards Treehouse Dam and go for a drink. But, okay, girl. Don't worry. It's okay. She's a bit grumpy with her cub as well. Her cub has been jumping on her head and biting her and grooming her, and she's been getting a little on the grumpy side with the cub. So I think she's had enough, and she's now going to maybe find somewhere to lie down. Hopefully she'll settle somewhere, at least in a little bit more of an open section, because she does like to get into thickets. I see the cub is making its way towards a fallen over stump, so maybe the cub is going to lie there. But let's see, is she going to climb for us? Looks like she's going to maybe go up. No, she's just going to scratch her claws, and you can see those massive claws just between the V there. There we go. Now, are you going to go up, girl? There's not very much up there for you, and it's going to be a really difficult tree for her to climb. I wonder if maybe the cub didn't put it up in there, because where that is not exactly the easiest place, and with Shadow's slight limp at the moment, I'd imagine she's struggled to get away all the way to where that kill is, but she's looking longingly up there. Let's see. There we go. So if you're wondering whether or not she can climb, that is a perfect example. So even though she's got her little injury at the moment, she's still able to climb really well, which is fantastic. So I'm glad to see that she can climb, except that she's gone up the wrong branch of the wrong trunk of this tree. Well, it doesn't seem like it's going to stop her in any way. And look how she's just looking up longingly. How cool is this? So like I say, we're being spoilt already this morning. Lions hunting, leopards climbing trees. It's all happening. Now, they're not far from where they were last night. It took us a few minutes just to quickly spot them. They were really well camouflaged at one point. Well done, girl. So there we go. That's a perfect example that Shadow will be just fine. For those of you that are stressed about her, oh, don't fall now. Don't go up in that no, that's the wrong branch, girl. The long way around is what that's called. But for those of you that were stressed that she wouldn't be able to move around and do what she needs to do, that's a prime example that even with that forelimb not being as sort of in the right condition as it should be, and her limping, she's still able to maneuver through even the toughest of trees. I mean, this is not an easy tree. You can see she's got the head of the steenbok now that she's coming down with. I wouldn't be surprised she drops it down and comes and feeds off it on the ground where it's a lot more comfortable. But that's the head. So if you're a bit squeamish, probably the best time is to look away now. Let's see, she's going to come down slowly. Well done, girl. You can see it's a little sore, and that's why she kind of is a bit unsteady. She'd be probably far more steady if she was in a situation where she hadn't had an injury, but still able to do it, and I'm sure she's going to now chomp down on her steenbok. There's still a leg or two that are there as well. Riti, generally the cubs are starting to climb trees already at about 3 months old, so that's when they're starting to climb trees for the first time, and when it becomes far less dangerous for them. Now I'm going to just move slightly because where we are now is not great in terms of being able to see either her or the cub, so I want to just try and sneak forward slightly just so we can have a little look. So let's see, she's starting to crunch down on her steenbok, and what I am amazed at is just how relaxed the cub has become. The cub is a lot more relaxed than what it was the last time I saw it. It's just sitting watching us and not really too phased at all. You can see there on the left. Remember the last few times we saw it, it would kind of slink down, get its head low and run away. Now it's just sitting like a normal leopard, and it's just watching. It's not even lowering its head too much either. So beautiful little individual, and she's fast becoming far more relaxed. But I forget how small she still is. A tiny girl, much like her mom and her sisters have been, all very small little females, and she's going to be hopefully an absolute asset to this area as well. And I'm hoping that we'll obviously see, it brings to mind Shungile when we see these young females, and hopefully Shungile will come back to us, and we'll be able to find her in the coming days. She's been an individual that's been a little bit on the scarce side, but at least we have another female that could potentially be in this area, so hopefully Shadow brings this cub somewhere, or leaves this cub somewhere in an area that we will still get to see her from time to time, because she is a beautiful little individual and reminds me a lot of both her mom and Karula and that lineage. She's got the typical Karula lineage look about her, and I think she'll be a very pretty young female, much like little Shongile is. But I'm, like I say, super surprised at how relaxed she's become. Mr. P, in Canada, you're saying, how is the injury going to heal if she keeps putting pressure on it? Well, she doesn't really have a choice, Mr. P. It's not like she can go and lie on the couch with her foot up and order room service or a delivery. So she's got to, unfortunately, she's got to just push through it. And the body is quite amazing. Is that once pushing through, and if it was, let's say, like a crack in a bone or something like that, it will just heal on its own accord. It'll take a much longer time period than it would if she rested up and wasn't putting weight on it. But over time and her walking, eventually the muscles get stronger around there. They start to basically develop and help her with that injury, and she's able to then cope. And if she can climb trees the way she did now and catch steenbok, then she's just fine. She's going to be okay, and her limp is getting less and less the more we see her. I mean, she still is limping, but it's really not as prominent or as noticeable as what it was a month ago. And so she's slowly but surely, the muscles and the bone structure are going to be resetting, and the muscles will start to grow again and get stronger, and the more weight she puts on it and the more she walks, the better it will get. It's just unfortunate that they have to do it that way, and that's why it takes so much longer. If it was probably an injury that a human had, let's say if it is a muscular tear or something that was hurting her, you would find a human would have put its feet up and would have rested and put it in a cast, and basically that injury probably would have healed within a month. Whereas she has to kind of run around, she still has to feed, and feeding is not easy. They've got to chase animals and they've got to run over uneven terrain, and so that means that it extends that process out a lot more. I think the first time we saw her must be almost 2 months ago now, when she was limping. So it's a situation that, you know, at the end of the day, as time goes on, and it will get better, it just takes much longer than what it would in people, because we immobilize ourselves or that limb and make sure that we're not putting too much pressure on it. Whereas with her, she doesn't have that luxury, and so it's just her body's got to deal with whatever the problem is and heal slower, but it will heal eventually. Where are you off to, my girl? And she's really enjoying her steenbok head, that's for sure. And the cub is looking longingly at mom, as if to say, please, can I have it? You've got what I want. Look, see it? It's almost like I want that head for me. And just kind of staring at mom and saying, stop being such a glutton. But she doesn't look like she's eaten that much. The cub is quite full and rounded, whereas I think mom hasn't had nearly as much food. So unfortunately, mom's going to feed a little bit. And if the cub wants it, can probably go up and get one or two of the legs that are still up there. But it might not have the jaw power yet to be able to break down those legs and those bones and actually crunch them down. You can hear even Shadow. You can hear the crunching of the bones quite clearly as she goes through the skull. So her jaw power will be a little bit stronger than the cub's, and it'll allow her to get to that brain case and those kind of things that maybe the cub wouldn't have. You can hear it there quite clearly. Amazing. So I'm super, super happy also with Shadow that she's managed to find a meal. It's, you know, we followed her the afternoon before yesterday and 2 days ago, and she was hunting everything in sight. And so the fact that she eventually managed to get something really is wonderful news, and it's something that she needed just to sustain her a little bit longer, keep helping with that healing of the injury, and hopefully we'll see her hanging around in this area a little bit longer. She's right in the center of Djuma at the moment. She's, at the hyena den of Philemon's cut line, which is about as central as you could possibly get at this stage. So hopefully she's going to be a few days in this area, and we will be able to see her and spend a lot more time with her around here. Now, We have one big cat predator with its cub and eating away at a carcass here in the Sabi Sands, but Jamie Patterson has managed to follow her lioness, and I believe she too has cubs to look at. Well, Jamie, it seems as though you're being spoilt this morning. You've had lions hunting, you've had lion cubs, and those little cubs from the Angama pride seem to be some of the cutest, fattest little cubs in the world. So it's such a pleasant thing to see. Shadow's still crunching away on her steenbok head, though. You can see there's bits of the skull on her paw there, where she's messed a little bit. I'm sure she will clean that up just now, and she's slowly but surely dismantling it. At the moment, there's not as much left. It's getting down towards the sort of jaw sections, and from there, obviously, she'll probably leave it. You won't find them eating the teeth area very often at all. They normally leave the jaw. So what they're trying to do is normally just trying to get into the brain case and get that nutrient that's inside there. And then from there, they actually leave the rest, really. They're not interested in eating teeth. Teeth don't digest. And you can imagine passing a set of steenbok teeth is not the most fun experience, I would imagine. So she'll just eat the sort of brain casing and around that particular section. Also, they will eat the eyes and all of that as well, and then she'll leave that just the jaw and mouth area for the hyenas to come and clean up. The hyenas will go after that. As you can see, it's just chewing away. The cub is, on the other hand, has decided enough of this. I've gone and lay in the big thicket and is now having a proper rest. It is sleepy, sleepy, sleepy. So you can just see its little tail sticking out there of that shadowy area. I think it got a bit hot in the sun, so it moved off, and there's just this little white tail flicking from the background. Chitty Chatty Meg, you're asking how long do leopards live for and how long do they keep reproducing for? Well, in terms of how long they live for, it's the males tend to have shorter lifespans, so they're normally between sort of 12 and 14 years on average. There's obviously outliers on both sides, so some that have died a little bit younger, others that have lived a little bit longer. In females, you find that number tends to shift a little bit more towards sort of 14 to 16 years, with also, again, females that have lived to over 20 in the wild. It's very, very, very uncommon that a female leopard in the wild would go over 17, 18 years old, but it does happen from time to time. In fact, Karula's mom eventually died at 19 and a half, so they can get very, very old. Out here, it's not very common. In terms of how long they reproduce for, generally you'll find that their last litter is normally around sort of 12 years old, if it's a successful litter. So if it's successful, she's going to raise it for between a year and 2 years, and that's going to take her past breeding age. Although I have seen a 15-and-a-half-year-old female have cubs before, so it does happen from time to time, but past 16, you'll very, 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 very seldom see a leopard having any cubs whatsoever. By then, they're too old, they're not probably ovulating very well, their teeth are worn down, the claws are worn down, so even if they had cubs, they're just not going to be able to raise them and look after them effectively. So most of the females you'll find when they reach sort of 12, it's their last litter that they'll have is around 12, 13, and then they produce that one, and that's the end of that. You see the cub just popped its head up as well. I wonder if it didn't hear something. There was tracks for hyenas in this area from last night, going in and out. You can see just the ears poking up at the back there, so it's just watching around and looking and seeing what's happening. But I don't see any presence of hyenas now, which is intriguing to me. Maybe they just realize there's really not enough here for them to stay. Riti, most certainly both wild dogs and hyenas would try and go after that leopard cub. The thing is, this leopard cub now is already old enough that it can climb. So once it can climb, wild dogs and hyenas, while they are still a threat, become far less of a threat than when they're still sort of under 3 months old and they're not able to climb properly. But, I mean, wild dogs are a threat even to Shadow. They often do chase leopards and they harass them and chase them up into trees. But the nice thing is that when you can climb, even a spindly little tree is better than no tree when it comes to dogs and hyenas. So you'll find that they're able to get into small trees and then they just sit there and growl and hiss and keep out of the way of those predators. So that cub should be more than fine. Also remember that cub has probably come across most of those animals now. It's had a lot of time in the wild. Remember, every single day it's walking around, so it will know hyenas very well by now, and will know how to deal with them and how to get away from them. And on the other side of it will also probably have bumped into wild dogs a few times, and so we'll also know that they are potentially dangerous. There's an inherent instinct as well when something comes barreling towards you for a leopard, just to go try and get up into a tree and get out of the way. So I think the little one's going to be absolutely fine. I don't think we're going to have a situation where it's going to get caught by either one of those. Hopefully not. Obviously it can happen, but hopefully it won't. And with Shadow around, generally at a carcass and things like this, she's going to make sure that hyenas stay away from her young one. Moses, the leopard cubs generally are named when they kind of reach a year old. That's when we know that they've kind of gotten to an age that is more likely than not that they're going to survive and hopefully become an adult individual. So it's generally when it's a year old, and after that they start to, leave their mother. So before they do, it's good just to get an ID kit on them going and to give them some sort of a recognizing name. And the reason the animals, in terms of the animals that we do name, is we have these sort of names for individual leopards, just so that we can know which leopards we're talking about. And so, as a guide, it was often the case, if you had guessed that if you saw, let's say, Shadow and Cub twice and they found them again, you might want to go and see a different leopard, and it's easier then to know which one is which, and to be able to then kind of control that you're not going and seeing the same leopard all the time. And I suppose some people would be fine with that, but it's also nice to have a bit of variety. So that's the reason. But in terms of which animals, prides, lion prides, so the whole pride, very seldom that female lions will get names unless there's some sort of identifying feature, which is what we see with the Angama pride. Amber Eyes has become kind of the famous lioness from that pride because of her eyes being different to all the rest. But otherwise, the rest of the females, we have sort of little nicknames for them, but they're not officially named in any way. It's just the pride names. Male lions, we do name them because generally the male lions move around quite a bit and are often not together. So it's difficult to say Birmingham Coalition when there's only, one individual around. So we sort of name them, and then the leopards, like I say, territorial individuals, and sometimes even rhinos get sort of names because they're trying to monitor which rhinos we've got. Are you going to climb your tree again? Yes, it seems like she is. So let me just go back slightly for you, Senzo. Let's try and get Senzo into a place where there's not as many branches. There still will be branches, but not as many. Are you going to go look for a leg now, Shadow? I just love when leopards look up, just like that. So for those of you that like screenshots, when they look up and now you're growling at your own kill. Why? Because it's difficult to get up there. Don't be like that. Maybe it's because the cub is on its way. I don't see where the cub's gone now. Here's the cub. Can you see it, Senzo? The cub is up and just walking there. But it is such a good thing when a leopard looks up like that. And she is going to go up again. She's going to go get the rest of the carcass. Why didn't you just bring it all at once, my girl? Now you're going to struggle your way up there again. And here we go. Here comes the awkward tree climb once again. Or she is just going to stare at us. I'm not quite sure. But there we go. How cool is that, guys? Isn't it amazing just to watch a leopard climb? I think there's something about it, just how efficient and how graceful they are in getting up and down these trees is absolutely phenomenal. It always astounds me at how well they're able to do it and how quickly they do it. You'd find this person or even other cats like lions and things like that they'd be able to get up, but it's a much slower, much more calculated process. But leopards almost just tend to jump all over the place, and it's 2 seconds and they're up. And I mean, this is a leopard that's carrying an injury, and she's still negotiating that tree with complete ease the second time around. The first time was a bit out of control and a bit sort of jittery, but the second time around she's kind of worked the way around and she's done just fine. Well done, girl. Right, now let's see what she ends up grabbing. I'm pretty sure she's just going to bring those legs and hopefully feed off them on the ground. See, she's trying to pull, or she's just going to eat them up there. Yep, I'm just going to eat them up there rather, that's much easier. It's a shame, the little cub is just looking up longingly at Mom as if to say, please can you drop one leg for me so I can also eat it. And the little one is just behind the bush over there. You can see, look, it's just staring at Mom with hopeful big eyes. Shame, man. Well, there comes Shadow now with another leg, but she's still left one behind, so... Are you hungry, girl, that you're going after all of this now? So there's still half of the, well, 2 legs that are left behind, so she's going to have to go back up once again when she comes down here. She's going to go onto that side, and then exactly the same way as she went up, she's going to come down. There we go. She's going to come down right next to us, basically. How cool is that? And down she goes. Awesome. Very, very cool to see. I love watching, like I say, leopards climbing like that. It's such a special thing, and it's such a treat to see how they do it. And the fact that she's going up and down, and she will go up again when she's finished these legs. There's another leg up there, so maybe she'll leave that one for the cub, or she's going to actually go again. And so we'll have a repeat performance of this, and as Steph likes to say, rinse and repeat. And so we're pretty sure we'll see her going there again. I was hoping that the cub would get a chance to go up. It'll be fun to watch the cub climbing, but I think Shadow's hungry and she's let the cub feed enough. She's saying now it's all mine. At the end of the day, it is a small carcass for 2 leopards, particularly because the cub is now starting to get much larger. That cub is no longer a tiny individual, and so it is starting to get a bit of size, and therefore, see, she's almost like she's calling the cub now. Public, the cub is most definitely learning when she watches Shadow negotiating. Also, she's learning that taking a kill up a tree is what she needs to do in order to sustain herself and to keep her kills safe. So she's learning all the time from Mom. That's why she sits and watches Mom so sort of thoroughly and kind of checks her out and makes sure that she's constantly looking and seeing what's going on. So she's definitely learning from Mom. You can't growl at the kill. It's your own fault it's up there. She makes me laugh, this cat. Getting upset because the kill is in a place that is difficult to get to, but the only person responsible for that, or only leopard responsible for that, is her, unless the little cub did it, in which case it would have been much easier for the cub to have gone up there. But you can see she was making soft little contact calls just now, and that's what's bringing the cub. Now she's growling a little bit and the cub is stopping, so as soon as the cub sees her growling, it almost knows, okay, now I need to stop and not come too close because Mom's getting upset. There it comes, slowly edging its way around, checking now where Mom was, seeing if there's any scraps that she can feed off. There we go, that's where the skull was. I don't know if there's any food for you there, little one. Oh, little contact calls as well. Oh, sweet. Hey, little one. Look how brave you're getting. This is the closest I've ever had you next to the calf. You really aren't getting too fazed by us anymore. 22 Toes, you're asking at what age could Shadow's cub look after herself completely? Well, the thing is that it depends on the individual, but I've had a situation where we've had cubs that are less than 10 months old, or around 10 months old, killing fully grown male impalas. So theoretically, it could be already at that age that she could be able to do it. So she's now about 9 months old, and so, you know, in a month's time she should be able to catch rather larger things. But she could survive now off lizards and birds and scrub hares and various other things. That could be a possibility already. So I would say now already she's probably at the age where she probably can survive and can move around on her own. It just would be really difficult. It's not an easy thing. As we've seen with Shongile and Hosanna, and particularly Shongile, it took her a while to figure things out and to be able to find food, and she had to rely on terrapins and lizards and the likes to be able to actually get enough nutrients, and I would imagine it would be the same. But generally we say from about 10 months they're able to, I mean, it's difficult, but they are able to try and sort of sustain themselves. I remember Tiani, she killed her first fully grown male impala already at just between 9 and 10 months. But Tiani was a much bigger individual than what Shadow's cub is. At the same age, Tiani was probably almost double the size already. So Tiani's a really big girl, and she was able to pull down all kinds of things. Shame, poor cub has been growled at by Shadow, and now it's having to walk away. Shadow, don't be ugly to your cub. Let it have a meal too. So this is all just part and parcel of a mother-daughter relationship. Some days it's a happy one, some days not so much. And when it comes to food, if the little one is fed nicely, now Shadow is hungry, she's going to make sure that she tries to get some, and that's why she's growling a little bit at the cub, and the cub is now moving off because Mom is getting upset. The interesting thing, though, is if you think that Shadow is being sort of mean to the cub, is that when we first arrived, she was grooming Shadow was grooming the cub non-stop. She was grooming it on the head, and there was lots of bonding and rubbing together and rolling around together. So it's not that she doesn't like the cub or that she's trying to push the cub away. It's just a food situation, and she wants the last leg as opposed to letting the cub get it. So that's why we're in the situation that we're in, and why Shadow's being a little on the grumpy side of life. Also, she's hot now. She's exerted herself going up and down this tree, and she's had a tough time of it, and it's getting warmer, so it's going to be time for her to rest and relax and chill. Right, well, Shadow starts to groom herself and starts to get herself ready for the camera. Let's go back across. I think it's to Jamie. I might have messed this up completely, but hopefully it's Jamie, and I wonder what she's up to and where she's been bumbling around. We do indeed, and we just had the most epic moment with Shadow. There's another vehicle arrived, and maybe it flushed something, I'm not sure, but Shadow went onto her back legs in that typical kind of meerkat pose. It was so cool, but she only held it for a second, and I was trying to get a photograph of it while we were off air so I could show you guys, but my camera just failed, so I think I might feed my camera to Shadow, because I've been trying to get a photograph of a leopard doing that for so long. And it was so cool because the cub was sitting right next to her, and she was up on her back legs, holding her front legs against her chest, just like a meerkat would sit, and she was watching over the long grass. So it was such a cool moment, but unfortunately, like I say, camera didn't want to work, didn't want to focus, didn't want to take the photograph, so I think it's going to have to go into the bin at some point. No, Ali will probably kill me if I did that, so we're not going to do that, and I don't want to be on the couch for the rest of my life, so let's rather leave the camera on the vehicle, and we'll just have a look at it later. But anyway, the cub has edged its way closer and closer towards the tree. Mom has moved away a little bit, so I wonder if we might see the cub trying to go up and get that last little leg that's there. It's been crying to its mom. It was sitting just now looking into the tree longingly, just making these little cries and squeaks as though, please can I go, please let me go, and obviously it was just met with a hissing growl every time. And so she's now watching Mom very carefully. Mom is now lying down and resting just to the right of the tree, and so I'm hoping that the little one will be brave enough now to try and go. And where we are positioned, if we do get a climbing of this cat, we should have a really good view of it and be able to see them coming up and down quite nicely, so it will be really good. Paul, you're asking how far away are we from them? We seem really close. Well, Paul, as you can see, we're not far at all. And so the thing is with these leopards here in Sabi, they're quite habituated to vehicles. You can see they're not showing any sign of distress. Well, I mean, even the cub walked right past the car. And generally, if you just turn off, then they'll move around quite a bit. Shadow's a little bit on the sort of stress side this morning, so she has growled once or twice. And it's normally when vehicles are moving, and particularly when they go over trees that are quite sort of tough and make a lot of clinging sounds and hit the car quite a lot. And then the presence of hyenas last night and a kill will make her a little bit more kind of upset and a little bit more tense about what's going on. That, coupled with the fact that she's climbing to try and get this with this injury, is probably not very comfortable to get up there, has put her in a little bit of a bad mood. So we're giving her quite a lot of space. I haven't been too close to her at all, but the cub is super relaxed. The cub doesn't worry about us at all. So I would say in total distance now from the cub, I'm about maybe 10-15 meters, and Shadow, she's about 25 meters away from where I am, maybe 20 meters, so not too far, the two of them. And the thing is that most of the time is if you just park off somewhere, these leopards are fairly relaxed with the presence of vehicles. It's just when they move around a lot. And with Shadow and cub, the biggest trick and the biggest way to actually get this right, to get it right with the two of them, is that they actually stay one vehicle to stay still and one vehicle moves. As soon as two vehicles are moving at the same time, they don't like it at all, and Shadow gets quite upset about it and starts growling. If she's hunting and she's doing her thing and she's by herself, she doesn't really mind too much. But when she's with the cub, as soon as there's more than one vehicle moving, she's not in the best mood at all. So it's better just to take it easy and just park and let one vehicle move, and then as soon as that one's off, then you can move as well. So, but that's how it works with these guys, is that we have to try and kind of earn their trust, so to speak. So we sit for long periods, watch them, try not to go too close, try not to influence their behavior, and try and just watch for them. As soon as you see her growling, then turn off and stop and just stay where you are, because that's going to probably mean that she'll relax a little bit and will be far better off than if you're trying to kind of race around, and she'll then start to distrust vehicles and start to be a little bit more kind of wary of them and not be as easy to find, and certainly wouldn't allow us views like this of her cubs. So best thing is just as soon as you see any sign that they're not comfortable, it's just to turn off, stop where you are, let them decide. If they don't want to be close to you, they're going to move off and carry on. But otherwise, generally what happens is, in my experience with most of these leopards, as soon as you stop and turn off, they start to relax and calm down, and eventually they'll lie down, and sometimes even right next to you. They'll walk up right to the car and lie next to you. So it's just about letting them decide rather than us forcing ourselves into their sort of personal space. It's much like us as a person. If you've got an area around you that as soon as somebody comes into that you don't know, you're a bit like, what are you doing here? Get away from me type thing. But once you if you get to know somebody, then your proximity to them changes a little bit, and it's the exact same thing with them. So, it's almost like we're trying to kind of make friends, and that allows us then to spend time at quite small distances like we are now. But you can see when one vehicle's moving, everything is fine. She's not growling, she's not grumpy, she's not anything. You might hear the vehicle driving in the background, so she's okay as soon as it's just one vehicle. When it becomes two moving at the same time, very different story. But she's panting heavily. I think she's getting quite warm with this sort of sun that's out, and also the activity she's done this morning. She's moved around quite a bit and has been up and down this tree, so she's probably exerted herself. Plus she's got a fairly full belly, which means that she's not able to move that diaphragm as much, and therefore she's taking much shorter breaths than she would if she was in a fit, healthy, if she had not eaten, sorry. So that's why she's panting. The cub on the other side, it really is not panting at all. The cub has got a far more relaxed breathing pattern. It hasn't been exerting itself. It also hasn't eaten as much this morning, and therefore the cub doesn't have to worry about panting to cool its body down. It's in a state where it's still perfectly cool, and its mouth is closed, and breathing pattern is very regular. But I'm surprised this little one hasn't tried to go up the tree. I would have thought that as soon as Mom turned its back to the tree, it would have been up there. And it seems as though it's got a stern warning from Mom and is now just trying to listen as much as possible, and is not going to go up until Mom moves away a little bit further. Although, I'm pretty sure she would be okay. Male leopards will kill cubs regularly. New male leopards to an area, so let's say hypothetically Tingana, who's the male leopard that is dominant in this section. For those of you who are new viewers, he would, let's say, disappear, and a new male then pushed in. That new male would try kill these cubs to bring that female back into estrus. And the reason why is that the tenure of a male is very short. So male leopards, male lions, their time that they are in charge is only probably sometimes between sort of 2 years and 5 years. If they're lucky, there are obviously extremes that have a little bit longer, but generally that's the sort of time frame that they're dominant for, which means that in that time frame, if a single female, probably they'll only produce 1, maybe 2 cubs with, if they're lucky. So they don't have a long period of time to be able to try and kind of get their genetics out there, and their drive and their instinct is to mate and to push their genetics forward. And so they will kill the cub because they can't afford to waste 6 months protecting somebody else's lineage and somebody else's cubs and make sure that they kind of looked after. Instead, what they're trying to do is they're trying to kill the cub, bring the female back into estrus, mate with her immediately, get his bloodline going, and that's how it works. And so he'll find then that he'll be able to produce more cubs with that female if he does that. If they wait, it could be a 2-3 week old cub, and he's got to wait 2 years until he can mate with that female. It makes no sense, in an animal that has a situation where they've got very short times as dominant individuals. So Yes, they most certainly will. And I've even seen fathers that have killed their own male sons. So Mafufenyan used to do it quite a bit. If there was male cubs that the females had, even if they were tiny, even if they were sort of 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks old, I watched him kill 2 cubs like that were both male cubs, and he left the female cubs of those respective litters to themselves. So, male leopards are quite harsh when it comes to cubs and killing of them, but they have to be. It's either competition situation, or it's because they're 10 years short and they need to get those cubs going and need to produce as soon as possible. Now, I've just watched Shadow. She was looking up again, so I'm hoping that she might decide to go and get that last little leg, or at least the cub get the little leg. But while we see if she does, and hopefully she'll stand up and start moving, I believe Taylor McCurdy, I think she is out and about, and she is definitely out and about, and I think she has lions. Well, she is looking very lovely. Look at how she's just regally sitting on top of a little mound, just taking it very easy. The little cub has moved, went to go and get some love from mom, and was met with teeth and snarling, and so then decided better to move off and go and lie somewhere else. The interesting thing, though, is that we are sitting here, and why earlier I thought Taylor was with lions, which she wasn't. It was a completely messed up link that I did, but the reason why is because there is thunder. So we'll turn the ambience up, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it, but there is thunder rolling in very quickly. Now, for those of you that don't know, we have a bet in camp as to when the first rains are going to arrive. I said the 27th of September, which is tomorrow, but given the thunder that is slowly but surely approaching us, I feel like we might just get that storm today. And if we do, well, I think I'll win the bet, won't I, Senzo?
No.
No, I won't win the bet. Why?
It's not the 27th.
Senzo says it's not the 27th, but I feel like I would be closest out of the whole team because everybody else went to October dates. Brent was a month ahead. Sorry, what's it?
One is closest.
We'd have to. Now am I changing the rules? So Senzo's saying I'm changing the rules because I didn't say it was closest, but it is that way. So I would be the closest. And so Brent is the 26th of October, and Megan's 2nd of October, so she would be the second closest. And then I think it's Lou, and then Senzo on the 10th. Senzo, you're the 10th, eh? Yes, so let's see. But the thunder is very interesting. But we are in prime position if Shadow goes up this tree again. So she's had a bit of a rest. There we go. How awesome is that? So for those of you that are quick on your screen grabs, maybe if you play that back, you can get her jumping up into the tree, because that was very, very cool. And hopefully she's going to do the exact same coming back down again. She should come straight towards us on the way down, which will be wonderful. It will be as good as we can possibly ask for. We certainly will get, hopefully, a very, very, very good view of her coming down, which will be nice. Now she's always just kind of taking it a little bit easier where she is now, and she makes sure that she is in a situation where she can just work out exactly which way she's going to go, and up she goes. Well done, girl. It's getting better every time she goes. Is far more mobile every time she goes over. And oh no, don't put your foot there. That's not the right branch. Oh, Shadow, what are you doing? This is not elegant, and not what a leopard normally does, but now she's got herself into a very compromised position. And what are you doing, girl? Oh, there we go. Once she could get her claws into that smaller branch, she was able to stabilize herself. But at one point there, if it wasn't for that smaller branch and her backside being on it, she would have maybe fallen out of the tree. So I'm glad that she's in a situation where she's gotten herself right again. But that was not elegant. And I was saying it was getting better every time she's going up, but that was probably the worst attempt that she's had since we've been here. That was almost a complete fail as she kind of negotiated that way up there. I'm sure it's also because she doesn't quite have as much strength in her front foot at the moment, and that's why she's sort of battling in some ways to be able to actually pull herself and keep herself stable with that one leg. Now she's playing a game of tug and war. Oh, Shadow. Oh, there goes the leg. Oopsie. So her leg just fell out of the tree, and now she should start coming down and start heading in this general direction. Come on, girl. Come down nicely. Don't come down with too much force. We want you to be healthy and fit. And there we go. Down down she came. So she'll eat that last little bit of scraps and a little bit of fur that she's got there. Then she'll go probably feed off the leg, and that's the end of it. From there, what I would imagine is we're going to see a situation where this cub and her might then start going for water. I wouldn't be surprised they take us towards Treehouse Dam. We saw yesterday with Ali that they did do exactly that. As soon as they'd finished, or as soon as she went to go get the cub, on the way back was just to stop and get food, get water, and I would imagine it's going to be a very similar situation now as soon as they finished. But that didn't last long. As you can see, it was wolfed down. Did that not agree with you, Shadow? Almost looks as though she's going to get sick again. Nope, all is good. So there we go. She's going to go straight back to the leg that fell down, and she'll crunch that down at some point, and that will be the end of that, and that will be the carcass over. So while we watch Shadow, well, not that we're going to watch much now that she's gone behind the tree, but while we look at her tail behind the tree, let's go across to Jamie, who I believe has got a beautiful view of a large herd of pachyderms in the Great African Plains. Well, it's getting cloudier and darker and colder and noisier with thunder. So Senzo behind me here is saying it's not going to rain, but the weather forecasts, from what I can gather from Lou, is that we are going to experience rain today and a thunderstorm. They're predicting 11 millimeters, but all we need is 20, and then I'll be on the money, and I'll be a very, very happy individual, because that means that the rest of the crew will all owe me a 6-pack of apple juice, which will just be perfect. It'll be a wonderful way to spend the day. But now Shadow is calling a lot. She's talking to her cub quite a bit, lots of chuffing. You hear her? So she's talking to the cub now. She went back up the tree to look for last scraps, but there's nothing. So I don't know if she's trying to call the cub to tell her cub that we're going now, it's time to leave this area. But let's see, it'll be interesting how it plays out. Shadow, where are you going? This is all very awkward at this stage. I wonder... The cub hasn't responded. The cub is just looking at Mom with this look of absolute disgrace that Mom finished everything without letting her have any. So I think she's now spotted the cub, so maybe she'll stop calling. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I'm pretty sure as she comes down, that's going to be the end of it. She's not going to end up in a situation where she's going to stick around where there's been a carcass. She'll find that generally what they do is as soon as they're in a situation where there is no more food, then that's when they try and sort of start making their way out of there and try and get somewhere else. The animals won't really hide when there's thunder, but they certainly won't sit right out in the open and get absolutely pelted by rain. So what they'll generally do is try and get into a thicket somewhere, go into an area where there's at least some cover, that they don't get sort of hit by rain constantly. You know, the cats are never a firm fan of being wet, and so they always look so miserable when it rains, unless of course there's an opportunity to hunt. I have seen cats hunting in rain quite regularly, but lightning, if it starts really crashing down close to them, I would imagine they will find somewhere where it at least feels a little bit more secure than walking right out in the open. Although I once had the most amazing sighting of Birmingham boys, 2 of them, that were at a dam on Little Gowrie called Treehouse Dam, and we had this insane thunderstorm that arrived one evening. It came rolling in from the south, and it was just this bank of black clouds, and there was lightning just crashing down in every direction, and these 2 males just sat right in the open on this dam wall basically and just watched this lightning rolling in, and they didn't move, they didn't go for cover or anything, and only when the wind really kicked up and there was dust flying past them and it almost looked as though they were going to get swept off the dam wall themselves did they get up and start heading for a bit of cover. But it was just the most incredible scene of these male lions just facing into the storm and lightning crashing everywhere. I'll try and find the photos that I took of it and post them at some point so that you can see. I'll put it onto Twitter or something like that, but it was really quite something. I can't remember what I did with those photos. I did have them on my phone at one point, but it was ridiculous at one point. Right, now Shadow is slowly going off towards her cub. We might reposition just to see what happens. while we do that, I believe Jamie has a battle of epic proportions in the baby elephant world. Well, it has been, and look at this now. The two of them are grooming each other, so all is forgiven between mom and daughter. There's been growling that we've seen today when it was food, but now that food is finished, there's now the loving side of the two of them, and they're just grooming each other, getting rid of any little bits of meat that might still be on their coats, making sure that they're nice and clean. Little cub getting his ears cleaned, or her ears, should I say. And the two of them are really just having a wonderful time together. Is it not just the most beautiful thing to watch a mother and cub sort of groom each other and go nose to nose like this? And look at the little one. Like I say, all is forgiven. And there's a bit of love from mom, everything can be forgiven. That cub, I'm sure once they've groomed like this, we're going to see them getting up and moving. It's a typical thing after a carcass is groom and then start to get out, go and probably drink before a storm rolls in, and then once the storm comes, go and find a little bit of a thicket and just take it easy from there. So look, the little one's trying to scratch, but mom was licking where it was scratching. That was quite funny. Beautiful though, isn't it, to see the two of them together like that? Such a wonderful thing to see. Like I say, we're spoiled when we get to see leopards and to see interaction between a cub and a mother. You know, in a lot of places in the world, this is just unheard of, to spend time like this with a leopard one and then to sit and see it and its cubs so close together really is not something that many people get to see. We're so fortunate that we here in the Sabi Sands, and there's a couple other places spread across the world, that you do get to see interaction like this, and to be able to spend time with a mom and cub so close and watch the two of them really is special. Now, we might have a bit of an intruder that's coming in from the left-hand side, and it's not anything that the leopards need to worry about. There's a massive, massive giraffe bull that is starting to come in. Unfortunately, we can't put him on camera just yet because he's quite well hidden, but he is slowly angling towards this area, so I'm hoping he will come out as well. But a very big giraffe, dark in coloration, and is walking just past the hyena den, and hopefully will come into this particular section and we'll be able to see them together. It'd be nice to have spots, and small spots and large spots. Tanya, who's 7 years old, wants to know how big are leopard cubs when they're born. Well, Tanya, they are tiny, 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 tiny. They look like small, 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 small little animals, and they are only probably weighing, I would say, about 500 grams, even less maybe. They're small, they're like this big, so they have tiny little heads, small little legs, and a little tail that comes off, so it's a small little furry ball of cuteness that is born, and they can't see when they're first born, so their eyes are closed, and these little round ears, and then they grow quite quickly after that. The first 3 months they grow quite fast because they're getting a lot of mom's milk, which is very nutrient rich, and that means that they get fat quite quickly because the milk is quite fatty, and so they get big and puffy and they grow quite fast, and then they slow up in terms of their growing from there. But they are very small, like I say, about that size, with a little tail that comes off and little round ears. So very, very cute when they are still small, and that's why they have such a problem with other predators, is that they have a situation where they've got, you know, hyenas and lions and leopards and all of those, and they're defenseless, and mom has to go off and hunt because mom is a single mother. She can't sit with the dad for long periods, so she has to then go off and hunt and try and find somewhere else to find food, and leaves the cubs then exposed to themselves, which is why it's dangerous. But now this little cub, you can see is already quite big in comparison to what I was just describing now. Oh, look at that. Look at the two of them. You can, like I say, I always love when we see moments like this, because as much as it's great to see the high action and, you know, chasing and hunting and all of that kind of thing from leopards, this is just as special to me. Watching, you know, mother and cub just kind of bond and spend time together, especially with Shadow and Cub. We get so few glimpses of the two of them. There's been such limited sort of access to this cub, and it's just such a privilege and a pleasure to be able to spend time with them and watch them interact and watch them bond and form this tight bond that they have together. And see how Shadow's cub though is getting rid of a lot of the ticks that Shadow's got around the backs of her ears. Every now and then you'll see her pulling quite heavily with her teeth. It's like she grips, and particularly around the ears. I was watching her just now doing it, and around her ears she was really kind of getting stuck in there, and she was pulling right up against Shadow's ears. And I'm sure there was a tick that Shadow had that she was busy trying to get off her mom and making sure that mom was just in good condition and that she doesn't have any issues and that she can keep nice and clean. So same way that mom does it for her, she's doing it for herself as well, to her mom, and making sure that her mom is groomed and that those ears don't get any tattier than what they are. So you see there, she's biting and pulling. There we go. She must have got a tick there. Proud cat mama, the roughness on the tongue is exactly the same, so it's very similar to a domestic cat. It's very rough, and they need that because it basically acts like a comb. It gets rid of any loose fur, it gets rid of all the meat that's on their claws and around their face, and ticks like this. So you can see as that cub was grooming, getting rid of any little ticks. Oh, look at this. What are you doing, little one? You can't put your tail on your mom's head. No, they're just sitting opposite one another. So I think grooming time is almost done, and we'll see what Shadow does, because Shadow's going to be the instigator. If Shadow decides to move, then they will both go together. She'll call the cub, unless she decides that this is where she wants to leave the cub and she's going to go off hunting again. But given that she's got quite a full belly, I would imagine that we're going to see a situation where they're just going to rest up for the day. I don't think we're going to see them moving too far. I think it's all going to be about a little bit of water and then taking it very easy for the rest of the morning. No, grooming time's not finished just yet. Look at the little cub. It's like, no mom, not on the face. I don't want to. It's almost like when you're a child and you have to go to school and you have to brush your hair. It's the exact same kind of face that little leopard cub pulled. Now you hear her, she is making a bit of a sort of contact call sound. So I wonder if she's not going to start moving and taking this cub with her now. You hear the little cub talking back? The little cub was squeaking back. Now let's see if they have another little conversation. How cute is this? The little one is talking away, and there we go. Just like I thought, we'll be up and moving now. I'm pretty sure we're going to head towards Treehouse Dam. I'd be surprised if we don't. Just might be one last look around the tree to see if there isn't signs of any more food for Shadow, and then I think from there off we're going to go towards the dam. Grey leopards will require water pretty much daily, depending on also temperature and environment and all of that kind of thing, but generally daily is when they will require water. They will have a situation that they need water as much as possible, and after a carcass like this, they're going to need quite a bit just to try and keep themselves sustained after a sort of time of eating, and their body is working quite hard in order to try and sort of digest this meat and to try and get a situation. Oh, come on, Rusty. No, Rusty doesn't want to go. So we're going to have to go into low range with Rusty, which for some reason, because it's not exactly a big monkey orange that we're in at the moment, and so it should come off fairly easily. Why won't you go over, Rusty? So Rusty was just caught up for a second, and this is why I hate monkey oranges, is because monkey oranges are like this. You get a situation where they just get caught up in everything, and because they're quite spiny, they often will grab onto anything that you've got. So like a little steering arm or a tire or anything like that, they'll grab onto it, and then they start kind of holding there, and you've got to kind of go back and forth to try and get off it again. Now I'm just trying to see where the two of them are. Can you see them, Senzo? Okay, good. So I can't see them at the moment, but Senzo says he can see them. Are they still moving, Senzo, or are they lay down? Still moving. There they are. I can see them now. So I'm pretty sure, like I say, we're going to Treehouse Dam. I would be very, 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 very surprised if we don't head in that way, because the direction we're heading is straight there. Pretty much if we follow this line that I'm on now, we're going to get to the dam itself. So it's going to take some time. It's not going to be a quick process to get there. It's not exactly that close, so we will have to follow them for quite a while until we do get anywhere near that area, but it's going to be worth following and seeing if we do pop out that side. And I wonder if Hosanna's still around. I believe there was an update that Hosanna was at Treehouse Dam last night, so I wonder if he's not still in this area. See, look at Shadow, she's scent marking. So she's just making sure everybody knows this is my area. She was kicking back soil and she's going to urinate, and the cub doesn't care that mom is scent marking on serious business. Cub is wanting to play, and so she'll urinate, and that urine is now going to soak into the soil and it's going to last a lot longer. Had she just urinated on the grass, it would dry quite quickly and would probably not last nearly as long as if she had a situation like that where she scraped and then marked on top of where she scraped. Now this is going to be quite dense and quite thick, as you can see. It's a wall of trees in front, so I'm going to try and keep up with them and not spook them too much by following too close. And so while I do that, let's go to Jamie, who's still bumbling about in the Masai Mara, and hopefully there'll be a surprise around the corner soon. Well, at this stage we're heading away from Treehouse Dam more and more and more. We're now heading more in a westerly direction, so I don't think we're going to go to the dam, and we're going to head into an area that's going to be quite tough to follow them, but at least we still got a beautiful view of them kind of just in front of us. She's just stopped, and almost as though she spotted something, because the tail is starting to move. The little one is busy playing and taking it easy and rubbing up on mom every opportunity it can get. But isn't that beautiful, seeing the two of them kind of together? And look at the little one's tail. It doesn't stop. It's always all over the show. It's far more uncontrolled than what Shadows is. Shadows has got a lot more control to it, and here we go. The little one's going to come up. Are you going to come say hello to your mom? No. Mom gave her one look and was almost like, no, I'm not going to come any closer. There we go. And off they stride. I wonder where she's going. I was dead sure they were going to go for water, but maybe she's taking a very roundabout route because of the fact that the sticks were around, or maybe she bumped into Hosanna last night, and to protect the cub, she's not heading down towards that area. She's going to take it deeper towards where she knows it's going to be safe. So we're heading far more west and into a drainage line and a thicket and across, I don't know, maybe even into Little Gowrie or Hofmans again. But while I try follow them and keep up with them through this horrible thicket, I believe Jamie has a beautiful scene unfolding in the open plains of East Africa. Well, Jamie will know exactly where we are when she hears that we're between Shabamu and Treehouse Dam in the drainages here. She's going to probably have a really good laugh at me trying to keep up with Shadow. It is being a nightmare, to say the least, trying to keep up inside here. There's fallen over trees everywhere. The elephants have caused so much damage, and I'm trying to stay with them, and she's literally just skirting Treehouse Dam. Why she couldn't have gone to the dam and over, I'm not sure, but, well, this is typical leopard. Leopards are like that. Senzo, do you know where she is now? It's lost her. The last time I saw her was right here. Can't have gone too far. Unless she's changed direction again, which is what she's been doing all day. Where have you gone, girl? That's crazy. We were with her like 2 seconds ago. Jamie says, in response to where I am right now, is oh gross. Indeed, Jamie, it is. Gross is probably a good word for it. It is not a pleasant place to have followed a leopard, and especially one that just disappears as you guys come back to us. I've managed to keep up with it the whole way, and now all of a sudden it's disappeared. Where have you gone? I can't even hear them either. They were right here somewhere, and they were coming this direction towards us, so I'm not sure where they could have disappeared to, unless they lay down. Interesting. It seems as though they've just disappeared right in front of my eyes. How is that possible? Okay, let's try quickly cross this drainage and go back to where I last saw them, and then hopefully I'll find them lying down there, or, well, then we're just going to leave the area. We've had such a nice time with them already that I'm not going to put Rusty through too much more if I can help it. Is she not down here somewhere in one of these little drainage sections? I have no idea where she went. Like, honestly, she's just disappeared in thin air. Unless she ran or trotted. This is where she was sitting, just on my left-hand side. Careful, Senzo. We're going to go over some rather nasty stuff. Come on, Shadow, where are you? Okay, so... now I'm going to try and see if I can get around here and find where this cat is gone, and see if I can get any sign of it and try and get my way out of here if I can't. And while we do that, let's go back to Miss McCurdy, who, well, is probably also having it far easier than what we are this morning.